So that's on. We have got 30 frames per second. Receiving your content. We are live, apparently, but I'm going to change it to public because I think change is being saved. So this is saying we're live, but no one's here yet. Yeah, there's a big delay.
Is it normal?
Well, this is awkward. Yo, someone's here. All right. Check on your computer and see if we're officially live.
I'm trying.
Yep.
Computer isn't gonna work.
We are actually legitimate live. There's people here. All right. Well, howdy, folks. This is basically going to be a live stream talking a little bit about the Icarus race and also like question and answers. So, yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the Icarus race first, and then we'll answer questions for however long we want to go. But yeah, this is the first legitimate live stream I've done that's not at a random airport during the Icarus race from my phone. So if the audio's like bad, just let me know. Or if we're like lagging and dropping frames, let me know, and I'll do whatever I can to fix it. So yeah, people are here. They're joining.
My computer isn't gonna be able to do it.
Who's the girl? This is Jaclyn, my girlfriend. She's in some previous videos, flying paramotors like a boss. I'm going to post on Instagram. Make sure I'm not sharing any private information here. YouTube Live.
Are you gonna be able to keep up with comments on that?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Someone said they love my hair. Thank you. I love you. All right. So I made a couple random notes that like people ask questions about the Icarus race in general. So I just want to talk about that just a hair, and then we'll answer all of the questions. So one of the most common questions people were asking is like what gear I carried, what I would want to take additional, and what I would have left behind. Let me think of what I actually brought. So I had a tent, a sleeping bag. I did have a sleeping pad that I brought out to Montana, but I decided to leave it behind because I didn't have enough room. I had 3 liters of oil in a bladder, and then I had like this little bag that had all kinds of like random things like mini carabiners, lighter, bunch of like random granola bars and stuff. My camera gear weighed a whole lot. Like I brought a little camera bag and I brought so many separate batteries, which turned out to not help at all because the GoPro batteries barely lasted one flight because it was so cold. So I didn't even really get to tap into my massive battery supply. So I guess that's one thing I would have left behind. I brought 2 Anker batteries. One was like 20,000 milliamps, one was 26,000. And I never used like either because I had electricity at night, and yeah, I was able to keep the GoPro alive just by swapping batteries every time I landed. Oil, I had a syringe for my oil to mix. I mixed 75 to 1, and I had like little calculations in my phone of what to do exactly to mix my oil. And then other than that, I had a bottle of water just in case I went down. I could have something to drink. But really, overall, the only thing I think I could have left behind was my Anker battery, like one of them, because I never really used them. But I also never used my tent, but in the future I would still bring that because if I had to use it, it was there. It was like insurance. But I ended up sleeping at FBOs and hotels the whole time. So yeah, overall gear prep, I think I was pretty well prepared. And you can look back at the video I made preparing for the Icarus race. I like went to Cabela's and whatnot and bought some stuff. And yeah, you can see in detail like everything I brought. So other than that, lessons learned, like overall, I went into the whole race not knowing what it was going to be like. Um, I had like zero expectation. I just knew it was like going to be crazy. The biggest thing was launching with that much gear. That was like, I didn't prepare for that. I only had one flight on that glider with a really lightweight bag, so I didn't really have the preparation and the skill set to launch at high altitude, which means we were at like 5,000 and 6,000 feet sometimes, and the wing just doesn't make lift, the motor's not making the same power, and yeah, it was just challenging. The bag was really heavy, and it like was on my legs, so it made it hard to move. Um, but that was like the biggest challenge coming in that I wish I had prepared for more. I prepared the course pretty much, but that actually came to a halt one day when I was on day 2, right before I went to Jackpot. I had planned out like everything, but I got to this gas station and it was like 3 or 4 p.m. and I had one more flight I could make and I didn't know where to go because all I had was gas stations and I didn't want to camp at a gas station, and it was like I hadn't planned deep enough to where I was going to end up every night because everything's random pretty much, so it wasn't like there was a good way to plan for that. So yeah, I kind of made a on the fly decision to go to Jackpot, and that was like I could have planned better. Biggest fail, I didn't wear sunscreen, and I don't know why I overlooked that. I just figured I was going to Montana and there was going to be snow, and I didn't really realize I'd be sitting like facing the sun, flying south for like 3 hours during the middle of the day, the hottest part of the day. But yeah. Last one, would I do it again? A lot of people ask that, and I definitely would do it again. Like, as much as it looked like I was struggling and it was a very strenuous activity, it was so much fun. Like, life-changing, awesome adventure. And I think I would like to do it in a different location, just for different terrain and different challenges. And the other big thing is different weather, because no matter how you look at it, like, I got really, really lucky with weather. Like, I only had a little bit of downtime on the 4th day when there was weather, and other than that, I was flying like every day, and weather wasn't a factor. It was just go, and the winds were pretty favorable the whole time, and I wasn't really expecting that. I was expecting bad weather. So if I were to do it again, I would definitely like to experience different weather conditions. So yeah, I'm thinking about doing, there's a Icarus X race in Florida this winter. I think it's like 300 miles or something, so technically you can knock it out in a day, but it's like a triangle, so no matter which way the wind is going, you're pretty much equalizing the wind. I think I'd like to try that one, so we'll see. You catching any questions over there, Jaclyn?
Yeah, you want the ones about the Icarus race or about
Yeah.
yourself? Would
No,
you do it again?
Yeah, I just hit that one. Next question.
What was the hardest part of the entire race?
Hardest part, I think, is basically just fatigue. Like, the launches were challenging. Every launch, as you saw, it was like, prepare everything, think about it, relax, like, don't rush it. And it was still a challenge to launch. But by like day 3, I was feeling it. I was tired. I didn't feel very good. I felt like I was going to throw up. But I guess that was the most challenging thing, just to keep pushing on.
How's your scout doing?
That's a good question. The Scout is wonderful. It's crazy how much of a difference it makes in performance from high altitude back to here. Um, so I don't want to like spoil everything, but I filmed a video that's going to be, I have one more video from out west that's probably going to go up on Tuesday, and then I have a video where I took apart the engine, checked out the insides, and I fixed the clutch issue, which really, it was a simple fix. I just replaced the clutch, and I don't want to spoil it, but I think it was like an outside factor. Nothing was like wrong with the clutch. I think it was like an outside factor kind of got in there, and I just replaced it, and it's totally cool now. What about the struts? Yeah, the struts are still duct taped and super glued. That fix is actually holding up, and I have a bunch, 3 of them on the way from Slovakia. So once they get here, I'm gonna stick them on, and that will be totally fine. The motor is fixed now.
Do you have any plans to go back out west?
Yes. West is like the best place, I think. I went out there last fall, and it was like a year of just thinking like flying out there is so awesome, and particularly like the Southwest where there's just like desert and giant rock formations and red rocks and everything. I've wanted to go back there since then, and then the Icarus race was like, hey, go fly through all these cool places, but I couldn't really go like tear it up like I wanted to. So yeah, the plan is to hopefully secure a van in the next couple weeks, and Jack and I are going to work on it, put like a bed in there, maybe a kitchen, and go back out west, and we're going to try to make videos out there of just van life, riding around, going to different spots. And I want to stay and like pick a spot, stay there for like a couple days, and do like multiple flights at one location, and really kind of get to know that location before moving on. So that's hopefully, if we can get one soon enough, go out there this fall before it gets really cold, and then probably go to Florida this winter with it, and maybe springtime go back out, because eventually it's going to get cold out there.
People want to know why you took the route you took. You know what part they're talking about, right?
I think there's multiple parts.
Yeah.
So if you were to draw a straight line, basically I went eastward in a slight horseshoe, and then I got to Salt Lake and I made a horseshoe out west, and then I went directly east and made another horseshoe to the east. And the reason was, starting at the beginning from Polson, if I went directly south, like some of the competitors did, there was this mountain pass that everyone was talking about, and I only knew about it based off of Google Maps. So that was my only judgment of what the mountain pass was going to look like, which isn't that, like, you can't really get a sense off of Google Maps. So based on what everyone else was saying of how sketchy it sounded, I was like, I'm just going to take the safe route and go to the east, which turned out to work pretty well. It wasn't that challenging of terrain, and I got up to like 11,000 feet on those first flights on day 1 and day 2, and I got a massive tailwind. So that really helped. The next part, when I got to Salt Lake, north of Salt Lake, thank you, Stuart. You're the man. He gave us money for the van. Stuart, you rock. Yeah, once I got north of Salt Lake, it's basically like you could hook to the east and go over the giant mountains of Salt Lake. But here's the thing. So Salt Lake City is east of Salt Lake. There's giant Class B airspace around that area because of the airport. To the east of that, there's giant mountains, which is kind of tough to navigate through. To the west of Salt Lake is a bunch of restricted military airspace that I had to go around. So it was either take the risky route and go really far east over all the mountains of Salt Lake, or go way west around the military airspace. And when I made the salt flats passing, there was like this little corridor of open airspace that I had to fly through. And that was, I think, the safe route to go. But Canyon took the other route to the east, and he actually jetted through way quicker because it was like a way more direct route than mine. But again, I wanted to take the safe route because I didn't really know what everything was going to look like. So once I got around Salt Lake, there was a whole nother horseshoe, and that basically I didn't have much choice on because that was all based around the mandatory checkpoint at Monument Valley. And I mean, I could have jetted through the middle of the desert, but that's kind of sketchy, and there's really no gas stations or airports out there. So the only sensible way to go was a big eastward horseshoe. Here's a question. Do you prefer adventure flying now or ripping it up like before? Both, yeah. Now that I'm home, I feel like I lost practice on like wing overs and maneuvers and stuff because I haven't done it in forever, but I miss it and like that I love flying around like trees and rocks and everything, doing wing overs and low flying. But I gained a whole new appreciation for adventure flying and long cross countries. Like after doing the race, I feel like I have a superpower that I can just like fly really far distances because you put that bladder on and it's like you can run trimmed out for like 3.5 hours and go 100 miles plus on a flight. It's like I never realized that was possible before, and to cover 300 miles in a day. Now I also want to take up like challenges around here of making like a day-long trip or like an overnight trip and just fly 300 miles one way to a hotel and like just stay the night and then fly 300 miles back. So I'm pretty stoked on that.
People
Also,
want to know why there weren't any women in the race. Yes, there were.
there was. If you check it out on the Icarus Trophy through the Adventurous website, there's actually a girl, Laura, and she was, I think, the least experienced of anyone, but I've got like mad respect for her. She did the Icarus X race in Florida when we were down there last year, and then she took on this challenge. And that's the cool thing is you can do the adventure class and just go out and do as much as you feel safe doing. And that's what she was doing and just having a good time, and it was awesome.
Do you always fly with a reserve?
99.9% of the time I fly with a reserve. And yeah, because I'm either doing something sketchy or, yeah, basically that.
Do you consider becoming a trainer?
I've thought about instruction, but it's like, it's not exactly what I want to do like long term. I might consider like starting something eventually, but I don't know.
Info about the Florida race. I guess the one coming up.
The Icarus X. I don't know. Where can you? I'm pretty sure it's if you go on the Adventurous website, you can navigate to specifically the Icarus Trophy, and then from there you can find the Icarus X race. I believe it's starting in Lake Wales. How old are you? I'm 22.
Someone wants to see your trophy.
Do they?
Yeah.
I conveniently brought it here. I will show it. So this is the big trophy, and then there was, as you saw in the video, smaller versions. It's pretty rad. It's like either water jet or laser cut or something metal, and yeah, it weighs a lot, but it's awesome.
Can you fly an airplane?
I can fly an airplane. I got my pilot's license, and when I turned 18 is when I started flying paramotors. I haven't stayed current with fixed wing since, so I would like to get current and do my biannual and all that stuff and get back into it eventually. But yeah. Hello, sir from Germany.
These are funny.
Any new camera gear? That's a good question. Tonight we were just down at the park and it was super windy and turbulent and gross, but I tried out a gimbal and it's like an older style camera gimbal for a GoPro. I was really stoked on it because they make insanely smooth footage and I've been thinking about using one like all the time now. And it was kind of a total fail because I hung it off the front of my helmet, which is a bad place, and it was like obscuring my vision. I couldn't see, and every abrupt movement, it like tweaked out. And I know the new ones don't do that, but the problem is like it gets super smooth footage when you're flying like smooth. But if you do a wing over or something, they always like tweak out and like point the wrong way. But I would like to do that.
What made you want to fly? Also, repeat the question because I'm far away and they can't hear me.
Good call. What made me want to fly? It's been like flying has been like in my life, all my life. Like my mom was a hot air balloon pilot from the time I was like 2 years old. So I think my very first flights were on a hot air balloon, and then fixed wing. Got influence from my grandfather. He was a fixed wing pilot, like in classic aviation and Stearmans and Piper Cubs and stuff. And then I learned to fly fixed wing, and it's just been a thing forever.
Do you still pack parachutes?
Do I still pack parachutes?
Or skydive?
Or skydive? Good question. This is, I worked like the skydiving parachute packing job seasonally for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And this is the first year I haven't done it. So I've just been doing YouTube stuff like full time. And I haven't jumped since January, but
With me.
yeah, we jumped at Lake Wales last January. I want to do more of that. The weird thing is, like, I would really like to make videos about it, and I think it'd be awesome to do live comp skydives, because I've never seen it done except once, which was in a Kickstarter campaign, and it was amazing. Like, the guy put a Cena in a full face skydiving helmet, and he just was talking while he was in free fall, and it was awesome. But I would love to do that, but in skydiving, you have to have 200 jumps to even jump with a camera. It's like kind of a odd regulation, but I only have like 38 jumps now, so it'll take a while until I can jump with a camera and make videos about it.
Any desire to do another high altitude flight?
Yeah. The question was, any desire to do another high altitude flight? I did that flight to 15,000 feet like a year ago here in New Jersey, and it was very well planned with like air traffic and all that, and there were no issues. But I think if I were to ever do it again, I'd do it in the middle of nowhere and try to push higher with oxygen, because 15,000 feet was my guesstimated personal limit of what I should push to temporarily without getting hypoxia and passing out. So I would like to push higher one day with a different motor wing combination also, because at the time I had my old Scout and 20-meter Hydron, which is still relatively small, but a bigger wing is going to give you more lift and more maximum altitude capability. So like a giant 26-meter highly efficient wing on maybe the Scout with a 185, or maybe a bigger motor and an oxygen tank and extra fuel, like you could hit 18,000 feet easy, and that would be epic. That's actually a good idea. That would be cool to like plan out logistics of it, make it happen, go to 17,999 feet, because that's legally what you can hit, and make a video about it.
Have you ever gotten in legal trouble? FAA, cops, anything?
Legal trouble. I've done a video about getting reported to the FAA, and it's happened a couple times. Some based off of people online that have seen videos and interpreted that something was illegal, reported it to the FAA, and then the FAA contacts me. They clear it every time. They've gone through the regulations and found that I, in fact, wasn't doing anything wrong. It's never been an issue. And police, this is weird. I filmed a random video, like, before the Icarus race that I didn't post, that was like a police interaction. I missed the guy. This guy came up and he was all angry, and I didn't get that part, but he called the police showed up, and the police knew right away what I was doing was completely legal, and basically they were like, yeah, we got called, and we just wanted to come make sure everything was okay. And then we talked about paramotors, and they were like, so how high does it go? You know, how do you learn to do this? And it was just a good, positive interaction.
What glider did you use for the race?
I used a 19-meter free ride from Ozone for the race. sponsored by Aviator PPG. I just shipped it back today. I was kind of sad. I got like an attachment to that wing. It was fun.
How many wings do you have?
Right now, I have my Snake 16 meter, the Snake XX from way back, and then we have Jaclyn's Mojo small, extra small. But I've got more things coming. Hint, hint.
What happened with the courtesy car at the barrier? All good?
Oh, yeah, the courtesy car, I never got the code and I just kind of left it outside the gate. Luckily, there was like a walk-through gate, so I didn't have to climb over a fence. But yeah, I just left it there, and I don't think I got a call back from the guy. I don't know what happened to it. I assume they found it.
The age people could start flying a paramotor. You should explain that, because there's a lot of kids
Yeah.
asking that.
So age limits in the U.S. There is no age requirement to learn to fly a paramotor. It comes down to, I think, physical ability and then mental decision making, because it's not like riding a dirt bike. There's like a deeper thought process, I guess, to flying a paramotor. So once you grow old enough or even you're strong enough to carry the weight, run hard enough to inflate the wing, and you're physically capable of doing it, that's the one limiting factor. And in my opinion, I don't know. Should an 8-year-old be flying a paramotor if he can? Maybe in some situations, like a controlled environment with like someone shadowing him, maybe. But yeah, that's an interesting question. There's not many people that are like really, really young doing it. I think 18 is like a good 17 or 18, I guess.
Are you going to fly with Woody?
Yeah, I think Woody's going to be at that place, the X race in Florida. So yeah, I should be flying with Woody. I definitely think we should do a video together. Why isn't Woody on here? Woody was on the last live stream.
Yeah, I thought I would have seen him by now.
He was asking good questions. He finally, his ankle was good enough and he flew today for like the first time in forever, which is awesome. Oh, are you getting a new GoPro with 360? I like that question. I don't know if I'm gonna get it, but I saw it and I really liked what they were doing with it. Because I don't, personally, I've never seen 360 video that I've been like, wow, that's amazing. But what they did in the promo thing for that 360 GoPro, where they like zoomed and like panned and it was like slow motion, and that was awesome. I like that.
Okay, tandems. Like, are they possible?
Are they possible?
Can you do them? Do you get paid?
Yeah, so tandem stuff in the US, you can do it for instructional purpose only, which means you can't really just sit out on the beach and like have people pay you, because you can't technically do like paramotor flying for hire. But the only way you can do tandems in the US is foot launch. So if you use a trike, it's technically illegal. But yeah, you just kind of, you're like together and you run into the sky and it's kind of awkward, but it's cool.
Have you ever been pooped on by a bird while in the air?
I have not been pooped upon by a bird in the air.
I had to throw that one out there. Someone told me to smack you. If you
Yeah, I just saw that.
Sorry, I'm far away. Ooh, better to fly at sunrise or sunset?
That's a good question. Generally sunrise, like on a normal day, sunrise you get out and it's just dead calm, butter smooth air, and then progressively the wind starts to pick up and it gets a little turbulent. Woody's here! Hey Woody. I walk into poop talk. Nice. Yeah, sunset. And I normally fly like an hour before sunset, and it starts out a little bit bumpy at times, but it's good. It's not super turbulent or anything. And then towards sunset, it just gets smoother, unlike an average day. So I prefer sunset flights because you're already awake. Sometimes I feel like in the morning I go out and I don't feel like doing like acro. I just want to like cruise and like sightsee. But I prefer flying at sunset because you're like already awake and I'm ready to do acro stuff.
What happens when the engine dies?
What happens when the engine dies? You hopefully float gracefully back down to the earth. That's like the whole thing with paramotors. They're two-stroke engines, so they're not like an aircraft engine that you can pretty well rely on. You kind of have to assume it might die at some point. So it's your decision making of what you fly over. As long as you fly over stuff that's landable, if your engine dies, it's never a big issue. You just float down and land. But if you're flying over like a forest or a lake, then you're going to land in that forest or lake.
Why are you so much faster than others? Red Bull. Duh.
Red Bull. Why was I faster than others? Um, if you were following the Icarus like Twitter feed, you would know more of like what the competitors were doing. I didn't touch on it too much in my videos, but the first day, I think, Trey had an engine out and he landed like in the middle of the forest in a field, and it was like a whole operation to get him out. So he was in race class and he got held back because of that. Dean was the guy that you saw in the finale video at the very end where he told his story about the power lines. That happened the first day to him. So he was flying, it was coming up on sunset, and he didn't see power lines. He was really, really close to landing, like he was a couple feet off the ground, and he hit power lines. It caught him by surprise, and luckily he wasn't injured. His gear was a little messed up, and they recovered everything. Then he had to wait on parts to get shipped, so he quickly went from race class to adventure class. And then Canyon, he was the other race class guy, and he was like right on my heels the whole time. He was doing really well, and he kept up right until like the Salt Lake area, and that's where kind of luck came into play because weather was moving in from the south, and I was slightly ahead, so I pushed through the weather before it got bad, and that was day 4. And then overnight, the weather moved up to where Canyon was at, and he got grounded for like 3 days because of the weather. So that was pretty much luck that I got past it just in time, and he got held back. And he got held back so long that I had finished the race, and then he just switched to adventure class to just have some fun.
Do you need to be your own mechanic in this sport? That's a good question.
Yeah, the question is, do you need to be your own mechanic in this sport? And yeah, pretty much like paramotors aren't really regulated like aircraft are, where they need like a 100-hour annual inspection or anything. So you are your own mechanic. There's not really anywhere, unless you live like by a dealer, that you can get your paramotor serviced if you're lucky enough to be close to someone. But like for me, I just know how to work on the engine and fix whatever needs to be fixed. Luckily, like they're pretty simple, so it's not a really difficult thing to learn. But yeah, you just get a couple tools that allow you to work on the whole engine.
Do you listen to music while flying? You should like touch on John's story a little bit and
Yeah,
why you don't listen to music.
yeah. The question is, do I listen to music while flying? And I've tried it because I've got the Cena Bluetooth thing and I can sync it to my phone and play music. I have speakers in my earmuffs. You can do earbuds, and those provide higher quality music, but mine sounds like garbage because you have to crank it up to get it loud enough to hear, and it's distorted. And I don't like flying with it, one, because of that, because it sounds like garbage, and two, because it affects my mood. And all the times I've flown with music, like a good song comes on, and you just want to like go crazy and rip around, and it just makes me feel like less comfortable. Unless I'm just cruising and listening to like mellow music, that's when I would do it, but I'd have to get earbuds for my helmet, and I just haven't done that.
Do you insure your equipment like a car?
The question was, do you insure your equipment like a car? Um, I don't. I've heard of people talking about like where you can get insurance for paramotors, but generally I don't think anyone really does.
Do you edit your own videos?
Yeah, I edit my own videos. I'm gonna answer Woody's question.
Okay.
He said like a while ago, he said you don't normally keep your reserve under the seat on the Scout. What did you think? Will you be doing this going forward? Um, I always front mount my reserve, and the Scout has the option to put it under the seat. And the reason I don't normally put it under there is there's a bit of a trade-off. Like it frees up your lap, and for me, it's really nice to have your lap free. After flying with the reserve on my lap for so long, when I take it off, I feel like so much more comfortable. But the downside for me putting it under the seat is that when you stand straight up, it adds a little bit of bulk. So it makes launches and landings a little bit different. And if you're like me, I like to like foot drag a lot, and I do like a lot of takeoffs and landings per hour of flight time. Like I'll go up, fly around, land instead of just going up and cruising for an hour. And for me, it makes more sense to put it on the front. But for the Icarus race, I had so much gear on the front of me that I didn't have room for a reserve. So if the Scout didn't have that underseat reserve, I wouldn't have had any other place to put it. So that was awesome to have it there, and I've already moved it back because my preference is just to put it on my lap.
There was a good one. Are you interested in speed flying?
Speed flying, yes. That's part of this whole van life dream. I want to use it for like paramotor purposes of Jack and I going around and flying cool locations, but I also want to use it as a way to progress into other things like speed flying and base jumping, to be able to go to a site like near Salt Lake or something that just has a consistent speed flying line and learn more paragliding skills and push into speed flying and refine those skills. I think it would make cool content too because it's something different, unpowered flying. And yeah, eventually base jumping. I would love to just hang out at Twin Falls and learn to base jump. Was there a monetary prize for winning the Ick race? No. The prize was the trophy. Creative newborns, thank you. You are awesome. I like your picture of a newborn. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
What was I saying? Something about
monetary prize.
Bands? Oh yeah. The prize. Really, it comes down to having an amazing adventure, and that's like, yeah, bragging rights. Someone said it's some of it's bragging rights. Is like, oh, I won the Icarus. Yeah, it's awesome. But also, like the adventure and the experience is just like something that I'm gonna remember my whole life. Someone just asked again, can they see the trophy? It's right here.
Do you always ship your Scout back and forth for all of your trips? And is it back yet?
Yeah, generally I ship the Scout on trips and I use FedEx because flying it on an airline you can do, but it's always a risk and you have to drain every bit of fuel and vapor out of it or they're likely to pull it and you won't get to fly with it. But I use FedEx and FedEx doesn't really care, so I basically just drain the fuel out of the tank, run it out of the fuel line, and it's good to go.
Is this your full-time gig?
Yeah.
YouTube, I guess?
Yeah, right now, since January of this year, I committed like full-time to YouTube, and that's the thing.
More cross-country flights?
Yeah, I want to do more around like this area. Fly around like super long flights. I did fix the clutch, and I talked about that a little bit, but I want to save it for the video I filmed where you can actually see the inside. RazGrizz33, thank you.
Another one.
And Joey, thank you for introducing me to paramotors. You're welcome, Joey. Joey, I hope you either have experienced the joy of flying a paramotor or you will someday. The fastest you've ever gone? That's a tough question because you can talk about ground speed or airspeed. I don't know what the fastest ground speed I've done because you could have a tailwind and you could be going really, really fast. But the fastest, like, calibrated airspeed I've gotten was on the Snake. As far as I know, it was on the Snake XX 16 meter, and full trim, full speed bar was like 44 miles an hour. I might have actually been faster airspeed on the 19 Freeride, full trim and full bar, and all that weight at the higher altitude because I felt like I was booking it the whole time.
What happened with the Australian chicken soup guy? Did they press charges on him?
Dang,
Damn.
Brian! I thought about trying to call the airport and pay for some of you guys. Brian, you're awesome. That's sweet. Some people were calling up gas stations I was at because they were watching the live feed during the race, and they were like, "Say hi to that guy in the flying fan." It was funny. You rock, Brian. What was that about?
A lot of people want to see me.
Want to see what new videos?
No, they're like wondering when I'm flying again.
Oh, yeah.
Where is the wing you used for Icarus?
Woody said that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I shipped the 19 Freeride out today to its new owner, I guess. So it's in FedEx's hands.
Ooh, knots versus miles per hour.
That's a good question. I don't know what the conversion is. Yeah, that was kind of annoying because all my apps did it in knots, and I had to switch between apps to figure out like what I was actually doing in miles per hour. Woody asks, Jaclyn, are you going to join him for hashtag van life?
I answered him.
Oh, did you? You're on there? That's awesome. Should we expect you guys as a Bonnie and Clyde? Yeah, that's the plan. Gotta get that van life going. Just fly around.
Oh my god.
What other hobbies do you have outside of YouTube and flying?
Coffee.
Not a whole lot. Espresso. That's and I guess it's a hobby, but I always talk about motorcycles. I had a motorcycle once, and I really, really want to get another one. What magic oil did you use to mix at 70 to 1? So I don't think it's actually published information. I think it's right now just word of mouth. Actually, I think it is in the manual for 60 to 1 on Motul 710 or 800. I was running Motul 800 oil, and I pushed it up to 75 to 1, which isn't really recommended. But the reason being was I could carry less oil and I could ensure that I wasn't going to run out of oil by mixing less in there. But generally, like before that, I was running Amsoil Sabre, I think. Yeah, Sabre at 40 to 1. So it's a bit extreme to do 75 to 1. And now I'm back to 60 to 1 for just general use, which is, I'm pretty sure, what Vitarazi has published in the manual, but you'd have to double check all that.
What was the app you used?
Good question. I should have put it on the screen in the video. The app I used, I'll pull it up. So I made this navigation folder. The app that I used most often was called Avare, and it's Avare, and it's only Android. And it's basically like ForeFlight, which you have to pay a subscription, I think, for, but it's free. And you download the sectionals, so even if I wasn't on internet and I had GPS signal, I knew where I was at on a sectional chart. And it's super, super simple. All I did was, like, I had all my checkpoints in Google Maps, which I pre-planned, and then I would find on each leg, I'd go to, like, I want to go to Nephi, not Nephi.
That's
And
Nephi.
yeah, I like Nephi better. You press and hold the airport, and it just sets a waypoint, and then you got a straight line, and you take off and you like make the needle overlay the straight line and you're going straight. And then it reads off distance to the next destination, your ETA to the next destination, which was really useful because I knew my endurance was about 3.5 hours all the way trimmed out. So I could ensure that I was going to make it to my destination in time, and I was always looking at that number, and I was always trying to make that number smaller, and my airspeed higher by picking the right altitude. Sometimes I would like climb, and I'd get going faster and faster and faster. Then I'd climb 1,000 feet more and I'd slow it down. So then I'd drop another 1,000 feet and I'd sit right there and hold that tailwind. But yeah, Avair was one of them, and as far as weather, it's just called Windy, and it's like a graphic overlay thing. Let me see. I don't know if that's going to focus, but that's what it looks like. And then you can change to different altitudes to see how fast the wind speed is at altitude, and I use that for like trying to plan a little bit ahead of time what altitude I was going to cruise at and how the day was going to go.
Someone said, why can you skydive through clouds and not paramotor through them? That's like the other way around, right?
No, well, you can't go through clouds at all unless you're an instrument rated airplane, pretty much. Yeah. Did you fly with the rock in your wingtip? I'm fairly certain that the rock got caught in my wingtip at Wendover because I think I cut the landing sequence down, but I landed and like the wing went crazy and it turned into a tumbleweed, and then I balled it up. And I think in that process it picked up a rock, and then I crossed the salt flats, and then at the salt flats I was sitting waiting for the wind to die down, and I found this giant rock in the wing.
Oshkosh again?
I don't think we've heard confirmation on Oshkosh, but I'm fairly certain the Paradigm Aerobatic team will be back at Oshkosh for next year. Oshkosh is like the best week. It's so much fun.
What's your biggest fear while flying?
What's your biggest fear while flying? I repeated the question. I don't know. I think it's just the unknown. Like, what happens if the weather turns bad? Like, normally I don't really fear the engine dying because normally I'm flying responsibly enough that I know I have a spot to land. But I guess it would just be like, what if a gust front comes out of nowhere for no reason, and I don't know.
Do you enjoy flying in the winter? Do you fly less?
I always stop on Woody's questions because I want to answer Woody.
Good.
No, I'm just stopping this. Do I enjoy flying in the winter? Do I fly less? I do still enjoy it, but it's a lot harder to enjoy because you put on a balaclava and massive leather gloves, and that's a big thing, is just in the gloves, and then you put on layers, and your body can't move as freely. You can't feel the wind, and your fingers like in gloves on the brake toggles and the throttle. It's so much, it takes all the feel away, like the fine feel of everything, and it's just not as enjoyable, but it's still worth it to go out. And even when I like dress completely in all the winter gear, you go out for like an hour and in 30 degrees you're freezing at the end. Like, it's really hard to prepare for.
How's your face recovering from sunburn?
My face is good. I put on lotion and I think it's back to normal. That was like stupid. I don't know why I didn't wear sunscreen and my face got burnt to a crisp. Woody asks, have you found normal life to be strangely mundane after spending your time in Iceland and Icarus? Yes and no. Like, going on those trips is like transporting to a different dimension, but flying around at home is always like, I love it, and it never really gets old. So,
You see that?
what's that?
$10.
Ken, you're the man. Tyler Oshkosh. Ken, you're awesome. Hopefully I'll see you back at Oshkosh, Ken.
15.
Who did that? Garrett. Garrett says, thank you guys for the amazing videos. It was cool to see you flying in Jackpot. do you think you'll be flying at Flight Fest West? That's a good question. I don't know when Flight Fest West is. We flew Flight Fest East, and sadly I won't make it to Flight Fest South. But Flight Fest West, that's a good question. I would like to go there if we're available. Because Flight Fest was just like an amazing event. It was super cool to see like kids totally stoked on model aviation. But yeah, thank you, Garrett. It's very kind of you.
My greatest fear while flying? Turbulence.
Jaclyn, you should explain that. Like, talk loud so the mic picks you up.
There is no explanation. Besides, I have an irrational fear of turbulence.
Okay, so Jaclyn's training has been kind of hit and miss because I taught her how to fly. And she started on a Black Hawk, my old Black Hawk that was never reliable, and we always had issues with like keeping it running. And she's also small, so it's a lot harder to fly when the gear weighs like half your body weight or more, and inflating the wing is really tough when you're small. But basically, I think your third flight, was it? Yeah, third flight, we were out in the morning, and
I just went for it.
well, no,
He told me not to do it.
It started like at sunrise, and we were trying to get her up in the air, but there's zero wind, and zero wind launches are really hard, especially when you're small and when your wing is hard to inflate and it gets wet. And we tried launching a bunch of times that morning in zero wind, and eventually, like 3 hours after sunrise, the wind started to pick up a little bit. And I was like, the sun's heating up everything. It's going to be a little thermally. And she wanted to go for it because there was wind and it was like doable. She nailed it, got up in the air on her universal on the old Black Hawk. And it was a little bit thermally. Like, I can't say for sure because I was only watching for the ground, but it was like her first taste of turbulence. Kind of freaked her out.
Just a little bit. Someone wants my nudes and I'm saying no, and they're messing with me. How tall are you?
Thanks, Woody. Wait, I need to scroll to Woody. If you fly in your underwear for 5,000 subs, it seems like you should go full snake out for half a minute. Yeah, I'm trying to think of ideas for 500,000 when it happens. That's hilarious. I don't know. I should have like a recommendation form for things to do for 500,000.
Are you gonna deliver Amazon packages?
I mean, delivering Amazon packages isn't a thing I've thought about.
Chipotle, chicken or steak?
Good question. At Chipotle, double chicken most of the time in a bowl.
What happened to the Skybeam?
Oh, the chase cam? That's a good question. So what happened with the chase cam was I used it a bunch of times, and I took it to Iceland, and I flew the first or the second flight I flew with the chase cam, and then the chase cam is made to carry a GoPro 4. I dropped my GoPro 4 in Iceland, and then I didn't have a second GoPro 4 because I'd run one on my head to put in the chase cam, so I haven't been able to use it in a while, but it will be back because the chase cam is awesome.
Do you see?
No, I'm trying to catch up on these comments.
Do you get high?
Do
you smoke weed?
Do I smoke? No, I don't.
Do you drink?
No, I don't even drink, like, regularly at least.
Your sketchiest flight ever?
Sketchiest flight ever. I don't know, but there's actually, so after the Icarus race ended, I hung out with the guys and we drove around in an RV for a while. We went to Monument Valley, we went to Moab, and mainly in Moab we just hung out. But one of the sketchiest flights I had in Moab, launching out of a canyon at like 10 a.m. when the wind was starting to crank and thermals were popping, and I almost died. and it was all on video, and I'm gonna share it on Tuesday, I think. So look out for that. That was, I mean, it wasn't, in all reality, it wasn't that bad. It was under control the whole time, but it was like one of the most tense moments. So
Was I happy when you came home in one piece? How happy was your girl when you came back alive?
Jaclyn was very excited when I came home alive.
Do you dream about flying? And are you gonna daily vlog? That's a good one.
My sister's on here. What?
She has a YouTube account?
Yeah. Are you going to come to visit your favorite sister? Yeah.
People.
Are people being rude? That's not nice.
It's okay.
I'm trying to scroll through because these like go really fast and I have to stop it. Lindy, I think December or January will probably be there in the van. Oh, I saw this question twice. Let me answer this one. I need to scroll to it though. Basically, the question was, there it is. Do I use a variable pitch prop for the Scout? If so, do you set up differently for cross country versus acro? I don't. They make a variable pitch prop that you can adjust on the ground for the Scout to basically optimize for better efficiency or more power, I guess you could say, depending on the pitch. And I didn't use it. I've never used it. The props I've flown on the Scout are the Helix, the one made by Scout, and the E-prop. And this E-prop that's specific for Vitarazi is like the best propeller I've ever flown on it. It's like, it spools so fast because it's insanely light, and it just sounds high performance. Like it has this little wispy sound. It's just neat. Oh, here's a good one. How did you not see the tree coming? So the first episode of the Icarus race, I never really explained it in much depth. I think I explained it in the description, but basically that first flight of the Icarus race, I had the least amount of experience with that setup, meaning the 19-meter free ride loaded with lots of weight. And I think that landing was something I could have pulled off with my 16-meter snake. One, because it's physically smaller, and I probably wouldn't have caught that tree. But also, it was just bad decision making because I felt pressured. You see, I made that pass in the video looking at this part of the parking lot that I had scoped out on Google Maps that I thought I could hit, and I had measured it, but I didn't like know that there were power lines and trees all around it, so that was out. My next best bet was this little spot next to the trees, and I was like, oh, I can totally just make that happen. And then I tried to get in there, and combined with it was just too small, and I had a tailwind. I was doing good, and then all of a sudden my wingtip caught, and then I was like in the flare at that point, and I fell. So bad decision making. That's a good question. Have I ever been rained on?
Technically, yeah. In that last flight.
So the thing with rain and paramotors is, particularly on higher performance wings, rain does not do well for wings. And for the first time ever, I actually saw a YouTube video, I'll have to find it, where this guy got caught in pouring rain in a paraglider without a motor, and he knows like immediately like this is not good, so he starts spiraling to get down quicker, and he comes out of the spiral, lets up too fast, and the wing just drops behind him and it goes into a full stall basically. And it's parachutal, so it's like above him and inflated, but he's just coming down, and it's like the wing's freaking out, and like that's what happens when your wing gets completely drenched. So it's something I'm scared of. I don't want to get caught in the rain. And that one flight when I was pushing through rain, it was big enough that like the drops were stinging my face, and like I had to squint because it was like hitting me in the eyes. But the procedure, I guess, is to trim out and at least like half speed bar so that you're going faster, more pressure in the wing to keep it from stalling if it gets wet and heavy. But yeah, that's a scary thing.
Someone asked about vibrations and how they vary from paramotor to paramotor. So I guess like maybe mine compared to yours.
Vibrations on paramotors. That's a good question. Yeah, it varies a lot. It depends on the motor. The Scout is pretty smooth with like the propeller and the engine combination go hand in hand. A balanced propeller and then the engine itself. Some of them make more vibration, some of them are smooth. Um, it's hard to say because I haven't flown like every paramotor, but it's not something you like notice all the time when you're in the air. On the Scout, at least, it's just a very slight high frequency vibration. You don't like get annoyed at it or anything.
Is there anything you regret about doing in the race? Somewhat.
Sunscreen, things I regret. I guess that first landing, I regretted rushing. And that was the whole lesson. Like, after I rushed that landing and I rushed the next takeoff and face planted in the cow pasture, it was like a shift of mentalities of like, this is a race, and if you want to stay, you have to keep moving. But if you push too hard and rush too fast, then you mess up, and then you're delayed hours because you broke your paramotor. So that was just a whole shift. And
Nick, $10.
Nick, thank you. A token of appreciation for espresso, gas, fancy oil, fast food. Thank you, Nick. That's funny. Literally, I think people think that I only eat fast food because I only ever film myself eating like Wendy's or McDonald's or whatever, but I really don't eat that unhealthy. That's just like things I film.
Ever flown without a clutch?
Without a clutch, yeah, so paramotors, you can have a clutch or not a clutch, and there's centrifugal clutches. Huh?
Mine doesn't.
Yeah, Jaclyn's motor doesn't have a clutch. So basically what that means is at idle, um, your motor with a clutch isn't, the propeller's not spinning, and it makes it smoother on the ground. You're just kind of, you don't feel the whole mass of the propeller spinning. I prefer having a clutch. It's no big deal if you don't have a clutch. One thing is, people argue if you have a clutch and you mess up a launch and the glider comes down and a line goes in your prop, you're less likely to destroy your glider if you have a clutch, which might be true, but also when you come in for landing with a clutch, it windmills, which actually is a good point. If you've never seen, if you go on Scout's channel on YouTube, Scout Miro has a whole bunch of really, really good videos on paramotor geometry and engineering and science behind what makes a good paramotor. And one of his episodes was on opinions and evaluations of clutch versus no clutch.
3 blades versus 2 blades.
That's a tough question because a 3-blade prop versus a 2-blade prop was the question. I've never flown a 3-blade prop, so I don't really know. Yeah, I don't really know. There was a good question. Okay, how come you don't wear goggles? The reason is goggles and sunglasses, I just don't like things that like obstruct my view. And I feel like sunglasses, all the ones I've worn, like they make your depth perception a little weird. And it just makes me uncomfortable flying with them. Maybe it's something I get over if I flew with them a lot, but every time I fly with them, I take them off and I don't like it because it doesn't make me feel like I'm totally in tune, I guess. But for the Icarus race, I wish I would have put on goggles because I had a balaclava that covered like to my mouth, and then all of this got sunburned. But if I had ski goggles, I probably would have been fine.
How much money to cut your hair?
I don't think I want to cut my hair. Not anytime soon. But if you want to put a number on it, I don't know. At least a couple thousand, I'd do it. Got any questions over there, Jaclyn? Here's one. What do you do for hearing protection while flying a paramotor?
Sorry.
What's up?
Game of Thrones. No,
oh,
Game
okay,
of Thrones.
Cool. Hearing protection on a paramotor. I've flown without a helmet, like stupidly, just a couple times, and it's obscenely loud, and you come down and your ears are ringing. So I have a helmet that has like 3M earmuffs built into it, and it cups over your ear, and it takes away a good amount of the noise. But I think I'm probably going to have like long-term hearing loss anyway.
How did you and Jaclyn meet? I hate that question. It's like
It's
a
a
long story. I'm not from New Jersey though.
We'll have to make a video about it one day because it seems like a popular question, but it's just such a long story that we have to like keep it a little bit of a mystery, keep people wondering.
Oh, there's a good one, but I can't. Cats or dogs?
Cats all the way.
What was the total weight during the Icarus?
I'd like to just weigh everything because I never did to find my total weight for the Icarus race. I could kind of probably guesstimate it. My motor dry weighs, well, let's see, with fuel, I think it weighs 85 pounds, about 80 to 85. Then I had 6 liters of gas, which I don't know what that comes out to be. It's a little over a gallon, maybe 15 pounds, 10 to 15 pounds of fuel on my chest. And I would estimate my duffel weighed about 25. So you add that up, and it's a lot. It was like hard to walk with, no less run, and then the duffel it was up as high as I could get it, but it still touched my knees. So every step you take, you're pushing this 25-pound bag up, and it just made it really, really hard to launch.
Flat Earth.
Flat Earth. That hasn't been a question. The Earth is flat. Oh,
there's a few.
JK. Yeah. Flat Earth was a thing like when the 15,000 foot video was gaining popularity. Everyone thought it was proof that the Earth was round or flat or anything. No.
Do you manage to get coffee most mornings? Did you manage to get coffee most mornings? Talking about Icarus, I guess.
Probably half of the mornings on the Icarus race, I got coffee of some sort. Truck stop coffee, Keurig, something like that. Ooh, someone asked, I think I just lost it. Could you drop your baggage on the Icarus race before landing? I've thought about that because there's really nothing in that duffel that could have gotten hurt. But landing with a lot of weight isn't really a big issue as long as you're landing either with no wind or into the wind. But the bigger issue was launching with that much weight. And I thought about like leaving the bag on the ground with the handle of the duffel out and trying to fly by and hit it with my foot and pick it up. But I think it would have gone horribly wrong, so I never tried it. What did you do for 1 to 2 hours in the air during the race? Most of the flights were actually closer to 3 hours. They were between 2 and 3. And there was never like a dull moment. There was always something to do. Like even in the morning when the air was calm, I was checking my map, pulling out my phone, looking around, like observing the beautiful view, or just steering and changing my course. When it got to the midday flights that were turbulent, I was like all hands on deck the whole time, because any bit of turbulence and thermals would rock the glider and start oscillating, and I'd reach up and grab the tip steering line and fix the oscillation, and I couldn't constantly have my arm up because it would kill my shoulder. So I'd drop my arm and then wait for it to get bad, fix it, and yeah, it was a balance between that and pulling out my phone and checking the map and everything. There was always something to do, and I was like never bored. Did the hotel room smell like gas after you kept the motor in there?
Probably.
It didn't smell that bad, surprisingly. When I left it in the little shack in Twin Bridges, Twin Rivers, whatever it was, it smelled so bad, but the hotel room wasn't that bad.
What was the overall cost of, I guess, everything you bought for the Icarus race?
Not a whole lot. I was lucky that E-Raider hooked me up with the wing to borrow. That would have been a tough one. And cost of like the gear wasn't much. Like I bought a sleeping bag, I had a tent. Thanks, Kyle.
Did your legs go numb?
You know places in California to learn to fly. California, I don't know. Is Saboba? Saboba's California, right?
Saboba?
Yeah.
Sonoma?
No, Saboba.
I don't know.
There's a place, Speedfly Saboba. I'm pretty sure they teach paragliding and paramotoring. Did Woody ask a good question?
Do you follow a pattern? Something like that. Sorry.
I'll have to come back to that. Thank you, John. $1 million enjoyment from your Icarus videos alone. Great flying. Now do a coast to coast. Has it been done? Not that I know of. I was thinking about that. That was in my mind before the Icarus too, to start on the East Coast on the beach and fly all the way across. And not to try to do it fast because I think you'd die from exhaustion. But I think that would be like a cool documentary video kind of thing. But thank you, John. I appreciate that. A lot of people.
From Mark Honeycutt.
Mark's on here? I haven't seen him. What was Woody's question? I was scrolling to try to find it.
Something. Woody, ask your question again. About patterns. Or something.
Flyboy BC, he said that the tree hit puzzled him. It looked like I had room over to the left. If you landed close to the tracks, you are completely right. For some reason, I didn't realize that at the time, that there was this perfect gravel spot, like close to the tracks, just adjacent left to where I actually landed. Huh? No, I have to scroll.
Sorry.
I should have picked that spot because that spot would have been totally fine. But yeah, Flyboy, I think I saw your comments on Captain Idiot's videos. You're the man.
When landing, do you follow a flight pattern or just look around and fly wherever you want?
For airports, landing at airports, I didn't carry a radio, which obviously if you have a radio, it would be very smart to have one, but I didn't have that set up in time. For landing at airports, basically what I do is you just assume like the traffic pattern for each runway. So there's like hot zones on either end of the runway, and then you assume climb out and you assume downwind on either side. And basically what I do is come in low and below the traffic pattern altitude, try to go perpendicular to the runway and never cross the runway unless you have to. And honestly, in paramotors, like we have such good visibility all around that you can be looking like really well what's behind you and all around. And if you have to cross a runway, you look, study it, look, study, and then if no one's coming, you just cross. And it's just general airport procedure stuff, I guess, that a lot of the airports out there, there's like no one flying there except for Paige. Paige was like super busy. And actually, Paige, there was a big like caravan or something that was taxiing out as I was arriving. So I couldn't just come in right away because he was doing his thing. So I was below traffic pattern. I was perpendicular to the runway, like inside the traffic pattern, but low. And I just orbited and looked everywhere and waited until he took off. And then I made sure no one else was coming for landing, taking off. No one was moving, and just came across the runway and landed, and it was fine.
How often do you fly?
Jay, thank you. Will you come to the UK or Europe to fly? I would like to come to Europe, specifically like Norway and Switzerland. I think it's not the best for paramotor flying, but other activities like speed flying and base jumping and all, just beautiful places I want to go. What's the question? How often do you fly?
Yeah, that.
Pretty much every opportunity that's available, I try to fly. At least as far as afternoons go, I don't push into like morning flying as much as I used to. A lot of people have asked about the Scout. I talked about that in the beginning of the live stream, but the Scout is healthy. I'm waiting on spars, but the duct tape and super glue are still holding up. And the engine, I took it apart, cleaned it up. I took the exhaust off and shined it up because it was kind of oily. I replaced the clutch. That was really the big thing. I just swapped the clutch and cleaned it up, and it's good. But there's going to be a video about that. Any more? You got over there?
Why haven't I been flying a lot? You can probably answer that.
You should answer that.
I am on here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. People have asked about Jaclyn flying. Honestly, like, I think your first flight was over a year ago, right? The beginning of last summer.
May.
Yeah, May of
2016.
Yeah. But we haven't ever gotten like consistent practice. I think she has 12 flights now to get past like beginner stage. So it's like every flight is like her first flight over and over again because it's just been really spaced out. So videos with Jaclyn eventually. We've flown a bunch of times off of camera, just going out and like, quick, let's go for a flight right before sunset, but not enough time to film it. Someone asked, when did the serious fatigue set in, and would you say you have to be a certain level of fit to do the race? I think fatigue really set in day 3. When I woke up on day 3, I didn't feel good at all. I don't think you really have to be a certain level of fit. Like, I don't think so. I think if you're, a paramotor pilot and you're in good health, you can take it on. Like, it's gonna wear you out. But yeah, Canyon, if you read the website, it was like Canyon's age at least twice as much as Tucker's age or something, and he was trucking right along. He was right behind me the whole time until he got weathered out by Salt Lake. So yeah. David. Thank you, David. Loved every minute of the journey. Appreciate how you're always safety conscious. Tell us why. Thank you, David. You're the man. I appreciate that.
You slept on the bathroom floor.
Did someone ask about your kiting incident the other day on Instagram?
Yeah, I answered it.
That's funny. What about the bathroom floor?
You slept on it?
Yeah. That was probably the worst night of sleep ever in Nephi. Nephi. I like Nephi better. Yeah. I didn't have my sleeping pad, and I laid out my jackets, and I slept in my sleeping bag on jackets, but it sucked.
Ooh, compare the free ride to the Viper. Oh, that was Woody's question.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a good question.
I was going to hit that one. Free ride compared to the Viper. I was expecting a more significant difference, but I don't think it's that significant. The thing is, I have a lot of experience on the 16 Viper, a little bit of experience on the 15 Viper, or Freeride, which was just ballistic, if you remember that video, and then the 19 Freeride, I really liked actually. Just me flying without any gear, I'm fairly light on it, but it was fun. It was like still very responsive, and um, it felt safer because you're not as dynamic and not as heavily loaded. But I think the big difference is the line set. Instead of a three liner, it's a four. And I don't know, that just like, it makes me feel more comfortable, I guess. Maybe it's all psychological, but the risers are just so much more simple. The Viper risers, the way the PK system is, you pull on like one end and it does a weird thing, and I don't know.
Did you ever get ill because of a flight?
I have never gotten ill because of a flight, I don't think. No.
Have you done the training thing that Woody did in Tahoe? That's a
Oh, good question. That is on the list. The training that Woody did was an SIV course, basically where you pull collapses on your glider, and you learn to stall and spin and do all kinds of crazy things on your wing that normally aren't supposed to happen. And I've always wanted to do one. And after the Icarus race, I feel like I have to do one ASAP. Like next opportunity, I'm gonna get on an SIV course, because the thing is, I flew the whole race flying through these midday conditions that were turbulent and crazy, and I didn't get a single collapse on my wing, which was amazing. Like most of the time, I tip steered through turbulence, and then when it got really bad, I trimmed in and actively piloted, and I never got a collapse, which is awesome. But I know um, I don't want that to like bring complacency and be like, oh, you're fine all the time, because I know for a fact I'm not fine all the time. Like I don't have the experience of doing stalls and spins or major collapses on like a wing like this. So I don't want it to inspire complacency, and I want to get an own SIV course, because I think that any pilot that's been flying like more than a year or more than 50 hours or something should do one, because it just prepares you for the unknown, I guess. Maybe Woody has more input on it. He said, are you going to do the SIV course with Santa Croce teaching at WoW? Yes. If that's a thing, I am 110% going to be there.
Have you ever had a bad crash?
Wait, we got one from Jaro Wannabe. Thank you, man. Are you expecting more people at the finish line?
Yes,
Were you disappointed? I don't know. Well, here's the thing. So many people were like, oh, that was anticlimactic. Like, there was no one at the finish line. But the thing with the race is, like, the party comes after everyone finishes. The real build-up is once everyone finishes, uh, we hung out for like a day together in our campers and stuff, and then we got this cabin in like the hills of Moab, and it was just the most freaking beautiful place. Like it was just awesome, and we all hung out and like had a little party, ate dinner together. That was the real celebration that wasn't really on camera. That was like where the award ceremony thing was. But yeah, we also rented these, what are they called? Razors, those four-wheel things, four-seaters. And we started in Moab, in the town of Moab, which was like the most rad place ever, and drove into the canyons of Moab. And Jack, the other competitor, was driving the one I was in. And we got in the middle of like nowhere, and we were on these cliff walls, like this road that was like going up a cliff, and Jack was winding that thing out, and I like wanted to trust every bit of his judgment that he was like a good enough driver to not roll this thing off the cliff. But still, I was like heart pounding, like this is not how I want to die. But yeah, that was the big celebration. The actual finish line, I wasn't disappointed. Like I came in for landing and I felt relieved, and Shane was there and Sophie was there, and they took pictures, and it was rad. I'd love to have a Tucker Gott shirt that says send it or something. Is there a possibility your apparel line increases? Yes, I am working hard on graphic design stuff and all kinds of different merch stuff. So keep an eye out for that. It's in the works. It's an ongoing process, but that will be out as soon as I can possibly get designs done and released.
Plane versus paramotor. You could talk
Plane
about
versus
like them
paramotor.
being
Kevin, I gotta say thank you to Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin sent money for the van. We got a van pool going on, and we're gonna have this van in no time.
Base jumping in Moab? Did you see any?
Oh, yeah, so all of these guys had a massive get together in Moab where they were base jumping. Like a couple days before we got there, they left, and I was upset. But we saw like rock climbers going up massive cliffs in Moab, and that was inspiring.
Did it scare you when Shane and Sophie knocked on the door in the cabin or wherever they
Oh,
were?
that's a good question.
That's funny.
So when I was doing the last live stream, and it was Nephi, wasn't it? No, it was Monticello. I was in Monticello doing the live stream, and Shane and Sophie walked in. I had locked the door because, so let me explain. Like these FBOs, not many people are familiar with how the FBOs work, and I wasn't either really, because it seems like on the East Coast, airports, they have FBOs, but I've never seen a pilot's lounge that's just open. And out there in the Midwest, there was almost every airport had an open pilot's lounge where there was like water, sometimes coffee, sometimes snacks, and a lot of them had a free courtesy car that you fly into the airport and you can just take and go, and it's just honor system to take care of it and fill it back up with gas. So I was chilling there at the pilot's lounge in Monticello, and I had locked the door, and someone knocks on it, and it was kind of creepy because it's this big building and it's completely vacant, and I was there like exploring with a flashlight, and I hadn't seen a single soul at this airport. Someone knocks on the door, and I go over and open it, and it's like Shane and Sophie with a camera out, and I'm like, oh, you guys, I'm freaking doing a live stream.
Do you have a favorite paramotor website or magazine?
Favorite paramotor website or magazine? Not really. I mean, I guess the biggest form that exists is the paramotor page on Facebook. And half the time, that place is like a good resource for information, and half the time, it's just people attacking each other and being stupid.
Woody's comment is funny.
What did he say? I'm a magician. I lack the skills that super students have mastered for myself. Wait, did you actually? Because that's funny. What? Wooksam01, thank you so much. That's so generous of you.
How many hours were you in the air overall?
Oh, good question. Overall hours for the entire race, I have that tachometer on my motor, and it came out to be 36 hours, which is crazy. That's like a whole lot of time. I think it was an average of 7 hours a day. 36 divided by 5, something like that. I think, yeah, 7 hours a day.
Do you need the shirt?
I need to see that, Woody, because that's funny. I hope you wear it in videos, because that would make my life. Andy, thank you.
Fluffy dice.
Fluffy dice for the van.
Totally.
Scout or Nitro 200? Still Scout. My air conception arrived 3 days ago. Hashtag excited. So I guess Andy's asking opinion on Scout versus Nitro 200. The whole thing is there's no perfect paramotor in my mind, and the spot that the Nitro 200 shines really, really well is it's super lightweight. Like, I put that on coming from the Scout, and I feel like I could run a mile in that. And I think that's one of the best parts about it. Also, reliability and really good customer support. The thing I really, really like about the Scout is the torque compensation. So, like acro and carving and weight shift and everything feels neutral. And that's just where it shines for me.
Someone had a good question.
What was it?
I'm not selfieing. My arms hurt.
You totally look like you were selfieing.
I know, but I'm not, I swear.
Oh, I like that. Someone said make a shirt that says, "Does this butt fan make my wing look fat?"
Yes, that's a great
That's a good
idea.
one.
I love that. I'd wear it.
Quick, copyright that. Quick. Good night, Window Hero. He's tired.
My eyes hurt.
We're at an hour and a half right now. The last one I did was an hour. You want to make it an even 2 hours? We'll go for another half an hour and then say goodnight.
Smaller wings, not bigger wings. Have you thought about getting an even bigger wing?
Getting a bigger wing?
Explain that, I guess. And people want to know, like, what's next. You did Paradigm stuff, Oshkosh, Icarus. Like, what's next for you?
I guess, yeah. What is the next adventure? I think right now it's going to be van life, because after the Icarus race, I got in a camper thing and we just drove around, and it was like so much fun to just have no plan and cruise around. Like, the worst part was not having a shower every day, but it totally made up for it, like just having an adventure and riding around with a paramotor, and like, we're in Monument Valley, let's go fly around, or we're in Moab, let's fly there. And that's what I want to go do with Jaclyn, is go out there and cruise around.
Okay. Just making sure you got that.
We got Samarican. Thank you, man. A few bucks towards your clutch. I appreciate that. We got the clutch swap video coming soon.
Gonna bring a cat or 3 along.
On the
In
trip?
total, we have 3 cats.
Wait, for van life?
I wish. None of our cats would cooperate,
Yeah,
to be honest.
my cat is... She used to ride around in the car when she was younger, but yeah, I wanted to like get her used to riding around in the car with me, and then I eventually had to take her to the vet to get spayed, and I think that one experience traumatized her, because now she hates going in the car.
She meows like really loud and hides under the seat.
She did not like getting spayed.
Thomas Hayes, $5.
Thank you, Thomas. Watch your whole race great videos. Thanks for making aerospace and flying more popular. So many can't afford GA. Paramotors are the ticket. You're right. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate that. Any interest in flying a trike?
No.
Well,
just kidding.
I think here's the thing. Like, I wouldn't prefer flying a trike, but I would like to fly one just to experience it and make videos about it, because I think a lot of people that like either are too old or not physically capable of foot launching a paramotor, some of them look at trikes as like, oh, that's just the lame like old guy thing. But really, like, trikes are probably 95% as fun as foot launching, and it's like you shouldn't let that stop you from getting into flying a paramotor. So I'd like to fly a trike and like see what the experience is like. Someone said, can you fly in light snow? I guess you can, but the danger is eventually it's going to go in the cells of your glider, and eventually the weight adds up, and that could be catastrophic. So technically I think you could get away with it, but it's not a smart idea.
Gustavo sent $10.
What? Nice go down.
You are now the official ambassador to the sport. Nobody better. Thanks for showing us all the intricacies and passion. Some love for the band, dude.
Awesome. Thank you, Gustavo. You are the man. Who is she?
I don't know.
Just some random.
Some random.
How's the FPV flying going? I need to start showing more FPV stuff in videos, because I fly the little quad like a lot. I got like a little Inductrix like micro quad to fly like indoors, and then the race quad outside, and I've been trying to get better at it, and I'm progressing, I guess. But yeah, I'd like to eventually show more and more of race quad stuff. It's going good.
Sorry, I just started watching your channel to the person who asked who I am. I don't know who she is, he says again.
I thought you knew her.
Girlfriend, sister, aunt, same person.
What's your name?
Jaclyn. I'm Jaclyn, guys. My eyes seriously hurt.
From staring at your phone?
Yeah, I'm like, all close.
Safety thoughts for engine outs over deep water. Flotation is a good bet, a hook knife, and there's the flotation that automatically activates when you hit water, and my perspective changed on that recently because I always kind of looked at it as like, oh, I'm wearing flotation. If I hit the water, it'll go off and I'll be fine. But really, it's not a certified life-saving device. So it's like, it's probably going to work, but you can't really guarantee it, and I wouldn't bet my life to it. So wearing a life jacket under your motor is super uncomfortable, but if you're going to commit to flying over water, you might as well take every chance you can to save yourself, because water landings with a paramotor are deadly. Someone sent 5. Chase. Thank you, Chase. Let's see. Chase says, would you ever consider becoming a paid instructor? Would love to fly with you in Kansas. I've thought about it, and maybe one day, but it's not really a goal right now, I guess. I think it would be cool to do eventually, but we'll see. Maybe sometime in the future.
Oh my god. Oh my gosh. I answered your question, guys.
What's the question? You can answer it.
Who am I?
No.
I think they're messing with me though.
MD Wills. And there's lag. Thank you. Let's see what MD said. Are you going to do the race again? If so, do you need a chase plane? I have a plane and I could carry extra SD cards, battery, sunscreen, and chicken strips. That's awesome. I would like to do another Icarus race, but I said before I'd like to do a different location for different challenges and obviously different weather. A chase plane would be cool, but for the race division, you can't have any outside pre-planned support. So I could get rides, like hitchhiking basically, but I could only advance forward by means of flight. So if I was adventure class, I could definitely accept your help as a chase plane. Tony Tornado. Thank you, man. Love your videos, Tucker. I think people forgot about your awesome music taste. Just curious how you pick music for your videos. Any favorite bands or producers? Yeah, SoundCloud. Most of the time, just for my own like organization, normally I go on SoundCloud, and if I find new stuff, I repost it. So SoundCloud, search just my name, Tucker Gott, and you can find most of the music, and I include the links to any music in the description. But I generally find artists that are open, like free music for YouTube people. There's a couple of them on SoundCloud that they just make music, and as long as you credit them in the description, the music is free. So
do you like
that's
waffles?
my go-to.
Are you going to Flight Fest South?
Do you like waffles? I like pancakes better, but waffles are cool. And Flight Fest South, we won't make it, unfortunately.
This dude wants his question answered. Who am I?
Who are you? Jaclyn is my girlfriend. She's not my mom.
Or his aunt. Or sister.
Twisted Lister. Thank you. Hey from Nashville. Been a subscriber since the McDonald's video. How do you transport your gear when using an airline? Did you fly to and from Icarus? Good question. So transporting gear on an airline, paramotor-wise, is generally, like your motor at least, is not very practical because they're very strict about gasoline and small engines and stuff. So if you do, you literally have to drain every bit of fuel and like get all the smell and vapors out of your engine, or there's a good chance that they'll pull it. And I've seen one of my friends from the aerobatic team, he flew in from Spain, or actually no, this was the year before. This was from France. Alex Mateos, and he was putting his motor together, and TSA freaking stole his like bag of bolts, and it was like he can't put his motor together because TSA stole all of it. Then the year after, Manu from Spain, I'm pretty sure, yeah, it was Manu. He got his paramotor, and TSA took his gas tank. So it's kind of sketchy to fly with your gear on an airline, but FedEx, as long as you're not going internationally, I don't know. This, I guess FedEx would go internationally. FedEx doesn't really care, so I just drain the fuel out and I burn out everything from the fuel line, and it's pretty much good to go. And let's see, I shipped my motor out to Montana for the Icarus race, and it was like 117 pounds in the box total, and FedEx charged like 250 bucks. So that's about what you're looking at if you want to ship.
One, could you call anyone?
And I think someone else sent a super chat. Hit him first.
Yeah, Crispo.
Crispo66. Thank you, Chris. Your adventure series videos are simply epic. I can't believe you flew with Travis Haley in Iceland, and the Icarus race is such an awesome series to watch. Yeah, so Travis Haley, he was on the Iceland trip, and I didn't have much knowledge of Travis beforehand, so it was kind of just like meeting a new friend, and then I kind of found out he was super like famous in the gun industry and everything, so that was cool.
Are you allowed to call anyone in race class? Like me?
Call? Like a general phone call?
I think for like landing areas or help you. Can I help you with anything? Can you call people and be like, check the map for me?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing in the rules that, I mean, you can't receive help like in person from friends and family. I've made some phone calls in the air to Jaclyn and just talked to her about stuff to kill time, like when I was scared. Remember when I was coming into Monticello and I was fighting a headwind and it started raining? I was like, I don't know if we're going to make it. Just stay on the phone with me.
I was there.
Yeah.
Good girlfriend. Right?
True.
Are you going to Wings Over Winter?
Wings Over Winter, I think we are planning on going down there. Hopefully by then we have the van life. And, yeah. I don't know if I want to tackle this question. Someone asked about Blackhawk. Is a Blackhawk a reasonable first motor for learning to fly? That's a tough question because I started with a Blackhawk, and personally I had a horrible experience with it mechanically, but that doesn't mean they're all like that. So I would never personally buy one, but the thing with Blackhawk is in the whole spectrum, I think they're kind of the lower end. They're cheaper. Tons of people have had success with them reliably. I didn't, but I mean, that's the judgment you have to make, is spend the money and have something that you're gonna stick with forever, or like I did, you upgrade out of it and get something nicer. Did you ever find the meatloaf sharing family on social media or get their contact info? I really should have. I left them with my like YouTube channel and they checked it out, but I haven't heard anything from them. I wish I would have gotten the guy's phone number or something, because that was hilarious. It was like it was just meant to be. Someone said, how much can your Subaru tow? Have you thought about a micro trailer instead of a van? I did. I had a 2005 second generation naturally aspirated Forester, and then I went with the 2009 turboed Forester, and I didn't want to get the bigger car, but the towing capacity was higher. So my plan was to tow an enclosed trailer and be able to have camping gear and stuff. And I ended up getting a 5x8 trailer, and I towed it, and I got horrible fuel efficiency. I went from 24 highway to 12 highway, so that was out of the question, unfortunately. Jack, thank you. Towards some FPV quad videos. I will make that a priority. I gotta get on that FPV quad life.
You have a couple people from Australia all over the chat wondering when you're gonna come to Australia.
Australia, like we've been talking about going to Australia, and I would like to. That is definitely like wintertime. If we can maybe make it happen and get Jaclyn a passport in time, I would like to escape to Australia for a little while. That is in the works. Prettiest place you've flown from? I think Iceland was definitely the prettiest. But in the US, Sedona was like unreal. I flew in Sedona last year, and it was, I think, the prettiest place in the US. Mike! Thank you, Mike. Thank you for the updates this week. Your vids chilled me out. Contact me if you need an expert to help for crowdfunding something. I appreciate that, Mike. Crowdfunding. That would be a decent idea. Someone said, how do I send money? So on live streams, there's a super chat function, which obviously people are using, and it highlights their message. I'm pretty sure you can only send it on a PC. I don't think you can send super chats on mobile, so maybe that's the issue. Can you? Oh, yeah. There's a little icon. Bottom right.
Oh, this is going to be so trippy. You want to show it?
Yeah. The mobile. Super chat. Bottom right. Down here. Let's get some more questions. I think we're going to wrap it up in 15 minutes. We'll go to an epic 2 hours. This video, obviously, like live streams get saved and posted, so it'll be a video on the channel for beautiful people in the future to watch. What about a 4-stroke motor? That's a really good question, and up until this point, 4-stroke engines in the paramotor world have not been used regularly because they're about as heavy as the heaviest 2-stroke and put out about the power of the smallest 2-stroke. So they get really good fuel efficiency, and you don't have to mix 2-stroke oil into the fuel, obviously, and theoretically they're more reliable, but there hasn't been a good option. And Scout did a teaser on this new 4-stroke months ago that looked really promising. It had a way better power to weight ratio, and I think everyone's kind of waiting for updates on that engine. And if it's as good as it sounds, it might be some sort of game changer, which would be awesome. But the big argument with 4-strokes is that they're more reliable. But at this point, my Vitarazi, like, I've had really good experiences with my last one and this one and every other Vitarazi motor I've flown. I think their reliability is good enough. Like, you don't really need much more. It's like, I don't know. I never really, like, that motor I trust. And that's all I think I really need.
Have you ever been afraid of heights?
The question
That's been popular.
is, have I ever been afraid of heights? I don't think so. Like I mentioned, like my first experience in flight was when I was probably like 2 or 3 in my mom's hot air balloon, and I remember like looking through the little hole thing, and it never, like, it obviously it gives you chills sometimes, but it's not like I'm not terrified of it. Are you going to Sun and Fun? Most likely. I'm not sure yet if we are on the schedule to perform there, but it might be a thing. Your favorite part of the Icarus? Congrats. Thanks, Ryan. Favorite part? Overall, it was just the whole adventure. Like, it was a super memorable experience, super beautiful landscapes, and I think my favorite part was the flight right after Canyonlands, where I paralleled this cliff wall, and it was like the whole flight has just been straight line, take off, go, high, And that flight, I was below like the edge of this cliff wall and flew past it, and it's part of one of the videos. And that was like finally like I'm flying relative to something, and it was beautiful. And I just have like this admiration for like big red rocks, like cliffs and pillars and stuff. So that was epic.
Your thoughts on electric paramotors?
That's a good one. Thoughts on electric paramotors? Right now, I've only ever seen advertised at least electric paramotors that get a 50-minute flight time, and that's only if you're flying really an efficient wing and you're going up and cruising, and you could get 50 minutes out of it. But if you fly a smaller wing and you climb and descend, or you do tight turns and acro and stuff, your flight time is going to drop dramatically. And generally, I fly for like an hour, and I have half an hour of reserve fuel left. My full tank will go 3 hours, so I fill it halfway, gives me an hour and a half, and I fly for like an hour.
Yeah, cheap people.
Damn!
Marco and Slodies.
Yeah.
More
I think electric paramotors will be the way of the future eventually when the technology gets there, and it's going to be amazing. Slow Days, thank you, man. Good job, you guys. Van life. Appreciate it. And we got Marco Cross. Tucker, you're the man. It scrolled. More chase cam always. I will do that, Marco. Chase cam is going to come back because I've got the GoPro thing sorted out. Woody. I like Woody's questions. I'm thinking about attending Oshkosh. What makes it fun? Do you like it as much if you weren't a rock star there?
It's fun. Coming from someone who's not a performer and attending for the first time, there's like no way that you can't get interested in aviation after attending. Like, it was amazing. Every bit of that was amazing.
Yeah, Oshkosh, I don't know how long the flight line is. It's like a mile at least. And it's literally every single form of aviation.
Yeah.
Like military, commercial, all the way down to paramotors, ultralights, everything. And it just, avionics, building, home built, literally every bit of aviation. And if you're interested in that at all, like, that is the mecca. And
yeah, and you get to see like jets and planes and stuff that you would never see anywhere else. And people bring their like own homemade builds there. Like we saw, what was that cool one that you guys were looking at for a while?
That tiny thing?
Yeah.
With the two wings? Yeah, it was like this guy that built a plane out of like balsa wood, and he actually flew in it. Like it was a 103 ultralight deal. But the air show there is phenomenal. Like,
yeah.
I think the first legit air show I've gone to as like an adult was Oshkosh, and then we went to Sun and Fun, and Sun and Fun's still pretty good, but coming from Oshkosh, it was like kind of lame. Like Oshkosh just blows the doors off of everything. Who was your instructor, Shane? I actually learned with Aviator PPG in Florida over 4 years ago. Do you log every flight? Oh, sorry, what was it?
Clutch or no clutch? Mine started seizing up tonight again. Mark Honeycutt.
Mark, your clutch was seizing? That sucks. Yeah, I had a Black Hawk clutch break, but I still like clutches. Like, I would pick the clutch over not clutch. Someone said, do you log every flight on a logbook? I kind of wish I had something. I wish I had done it from the very beginning. At very least, like, if you're going to get into paramotors, go on Amazon, and it's called, like, Trail Tech, I think. It's a little meter you stick on your motor. You wrap a coil around your spark plug wire, basically, and it tells you the RPM, but it logs the hours. If anything, put that on your motor, because you'll be able to tell if it's a new motor, how many hours you've put on it, when to do scheduled maintenance, and you can just keep it with you for life from every different motor, so you know your total hours that you've flown, because that's just cool to know. Oh wait, I think I saw something. Hey, this guy says, so cool to meet you at EA this year. Matching shorts guy. I remember that. We had red shorts on, right? I remember. How much does a paramotor usually cost? The general idea for brand new gear is $8,000 to $12,000 you can expect to send or spend.
Oh, there was a good one.
Yes,
Has
red shorts.
anyone ever gotten angry with you for flying into an airport? Maybe gotten angry with you in general. Maybe talk about farmers. You've had experiences with that, right?
Yeah, I've had a couple farmers that got angry because I was flying over their land, and really, I do my best to stay respectful of people's property and their privacy, and especially animals. That's the biggest thing, I think, is if they have cows or horses or anything, you stay far, far away from them because if you scare them, that's a big issue. And I've had farmers that approached me after flights saying that I wasn't allowed to fly over their fields or I had to be 500 or 1,000 feet high. And that's just not true for paramotors. And I understand why they would think that because it's not common knowledge. But in general, like when that happened, I asked the guy where he lived and um, confirmed where his property was, and I just don't fly over his property low anymore. So just be respectful.
4 minutes, guys.
4 minutes. Wait, I want to pose. I wish I could put a poll on here, but I want to ask you guys like these live streams. We can do these every week if people are excited about it or more often. So
And I'll be up in the air next week.
yeah,
By the way.
guaranteed. Drop some comments if you're interested in like hanging out every Friday night or once a week or something. T-minus 3 minutes.
Everybody says yes. They want it every week.
Awesome. Damn, it was blowing up. There's a little bit of lag, so it's probably making me like, oh, what the hell?
FAR 103.
Was that a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, FAR 103 is what dictates us as paramotor pilots. There's so many comments. It's basically the regulations for paramotors and ultralights that qualify for the specs of 103. So just Google FAR 103 and like the first link that comes up tells you all the rules, and it's really short and easy to understand. Someone said, talk about reserve shoots. I fly with a reserve all the time, and it's really just insurance. Like, it's a very small inconvenience to have a reserve, and if you ever have a situation you have to throw it, it's like you're gonna have it, and it's probably gonna save your life. So I fly with one all the time. Jeff Dean, thank you, man. Your low flying videos on your home turf got me interested in paramotors. Grateful for the inspiration. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that, man. I see you got a paramotor in your profile picture. That's rad. How long does it take you to edit most videos? It depends on the video, but I normally sit down and I just do one video a day and I work on it sporadically and come and go from my laptop, but I don't know, 4 hours? Depends. Any good questions you see, Jaclyn? We're counting down the last minute here.
Is there a certain number of classes you have to take before you can solo?
There's not like a legal thing, but it's highly, highly recommended to get training so you don't kill yourself in the process of learning how to fly. And most instruction places, they will keep you in safe hands and judge your skill level, and depending on weather and how well you're doing, you normally get in the air by the like 4th day maybe. So yeah.
Ooh, Woody.
I got a Alex Longcore. Hey, Tucker, it's been a while, but Jason linked this to me. He posted earlier. I just want to say it's awesome to see you. Alex Longcore. If you're the same Alex Longcore from like high school, I don't think it's been a while, but Jason looked us up. I think it is Alex Longcore. It's been forever, man.
Mark Honeycutt says don't answer Woody, but Woody has a good question.
Oh, let's do Woody's question last, because now we're past 2 hours. If you were to do dangerous stuff like Helco's loops that might cause a reserve toss, would you rather be trees or water? I think I would
They say not to
choose.
be over water.
Well, it depends, I guess, how much preparation you put into it. Because if you have a chase boat, I mean, I feel like you would probably know more, Woody, because you did the SIV thing and said how close it was to like drowning. But I think I would want to choose water, I think, so the impact wouldn't like kill me on a reserve. But yeah, then you just have to deal with not drowning. All right, we are at 2 hours, so I think I'm gonna sign it off here. And next video for you guys that have stayed tuned all the way to the end, or in the future are watching this all the way to the end, next video is I think going to be Tuesday, the scary experience in Moab, attempting to fly through the Corona Arch. So I think that should be a good one. And after that is going to be taking apart the Scout, fixing it, seeing what was wrong with it, and then hopefully Jaclyn and I flying together and all kinds of new stuff. So I'm going to get ready to sign out. And till the next time, peace out. Let's see if we can time this right.